I still can't wrap my head around what went down last weekend in my quiet little corner of Willow Creek, a suburban haven where the biggest drama is usually someone's dog digging up a neighbor's tulips. There I was, standing frozen beside my parked car, groceries half unloaded, as a woman named Deborah Marshall thrashed on the pavement in front of me, clutching her leg and howling like she'd been run over by a semi-truck. "Help! Call 911. He hit me with his car," she wailed, her face twisted in what I later realized was a masterclass in fake agony. My jaw dropped. My hand shot up like I was surrendering to a SWAT team. I didn't touch her. I shouted to the neighbors poking their heads out of their houses, some still in bathrobes despite it being 2 in the afternoon. My car's been parked for 10 minutes. I was just grabbing groceries. But Deborah kept screaming, and the crowd grew, their faces a mix of worry and confusion as they tried to make sense of the chaos erupting in our sleepy cul-de-sac. I'd only been in Willow Creek for 3 months, drawn by the neat lawns and the promise of peace after years in a noisy city apartment. The real estate agent had mentioned the HOA, but swore they were chill and just kept things tidy. What she didn't mention was Deborah Marshall, the HOA president who ran the place like she was ruling a small dictatorship instead of enforcing mailbox color codes. My first run-in with her came just a week after I moved in. I'd had a brutal day at the accounting firm, my brain fried from spreadsheets, and all I wanted was to crash on my couch with some pizza. I parked in a VY cider spot near my townhouse, clearly marked, totally legal, planning to unload a few boxes and move my car to my assigned spot after. As I stepped out, I heard this sharp ahem behind me. I turned to see Deborah, her blonde bob haircut so perfect it looked like it was glued on, designer sunglasses perched on her nose despite the cloudy sky. She stood there in a crisp blouse and khakis, arms crossed like she was about to scold a disobedient kid. "Excuse me," she said, her voice dripping with disdain. "That's a VY side of parking spot." I forced a smile, figuring it was a simple mix-up. "Yeah, I know. I'm just unloading some stuff. I'll move in a bit." Her eyebrows shot up so high they nearly vanished in her hairline. "That is not acceptable. Visitor spots are for VY siders, not lazy residents who can't walk from their assigned parking. Your VY OLADing community rules and endangering lives." I blinked, glancing around the empty lot, wondering whose life was at risk because I parked in an open spot for 10 minutes. "Look, I'm just grabbing a few heavy boxes," I said, keeping my tone polite. "My spot's pretty far from my door. I'll move it right after." She raised a hand, cutting me off. "Rules are rules. I'm Deborah Marshall, president of the Willow Creek HOA, and I don't make exceptions. Move your car now, or you'll get a violation notice." I sighed, realizing this wasn't worth fighting. "Fine, I'll move it," I said, climbing back into my car as she stood there, lips pursed in a smug little smile. "See that you do," she called after me. "Some people think they're above the rules, but not in my neighborhood." I felt her eyes burning into my back as I drove off, clueless that this was just the start of her vendetta. Over the next few weeks, Deborah's obsession with my parking turned into something straight out of psychological thriller. She started documenting every time I used the VY cider spot, even for 5 minutes to carry in groceries. These yellow slips fake tickets she printed on her home computer began piling up on my windshield, screaming "violation" in bold letters, though they had zero legal weight. My neighbors started GIVYing me pitying looks. One evening, as I peeled another one off my car, my next-door neighbor, Sarah, crept over, glancing around like she was in a spy MOVY. "Don't take it personally," she whispered. "Deborah does this to all the new folks. Last year, she forced the Thompsons to tear down their kid's swing set because it was 2 inches too tall. I tried talking to Deborah twice, even offered to bring the parking issue to an HOA meeting, but she wasn't interested in solutions. She just wanted control. I overheard her one day on her porch, ranting in her phone about that new guy who thinks he's above the law and how she was building a case against me. A case? For parking? It was unhinged. Things hit a boiling point last Saturday. I just gotten back from the grocery store, arms full of bags, and yeah, I parked in the VY cider spot right in front of my place. It was open, it was midday, and I'd be done in 5 minutes. The HOA bylaws said residents should use assigned spots, but nothing banned temporary use for loading. I'd barely opened my trunk when I heard Deborah's front door slam. She stormed across the street, phone in hand, snapping photos of my car like she was paparazzi. "This is the final straw," she bellowed, loud enough to wake hibernating bears. "I've documented 19 violations, and the board's authorized me to start formal proceedings." I took a deep breath, determined to stay cool. "Deborah, I've read the bylaws. There's no rule against using these spots for quick unloading. I'll be done in 5 minutes." Her face turned a shade of red I didn't know was humanly possible. "I'm the HOA president. I don't answer to you. Move your car now, or you'll regret it." A few neighbors peeked out, drawn by the shouting. I noticed old Mr. Thompson across the street, pretending to trim his hedges, but clearly watching. "I'll move it after I get my groceries inside," I said firmly. "If you want to talk, let's do it at the next board meeting." Then something shifted in Deborah's cold, calculating glint. She glanced at the small crowd forming, and what happened next was so wild I still question if it really happened. She staggered back, let out a gasp that belonged in a soap opera, and collapsed onto the pavement with a wail that could have shattered glass. "My leg! He hit me with his car!" she screamed, rolling around like she was auditioning for an Oscar. "Someone call 911. He backed into me on purpose." I stood there, dumbfounded. My car was parked. The engine was off. I hadn't even touched the driver's door. "What are you talking about?" I stammered. "I didn't hit you. The car hasn't moved." But Deborah just wailed louder, tossing in some fake sobs for effect. "You backed up when you saw me coming. You did it because I caught you breaking the rules." Neighbors were gathering now, some whispering, others looking at me like I was a criminal. Someone shouted they'd called the police, and in the chaos, I spotted Mr. Thompson quietly holding up his phone, its red recording light blinking. Within minutes, police sirens echoed through Willow Creek. 2 officers stepped out, looking serious as they took in the scene. Deborah writhing on the ground, me standing beside my car, and a crowd of neighbors gawking. Deborah cranked her performance up to 11, clutching her leg and sobbing to the officers about how I deliberately reversed into her when she confronted me about my chronic rule breaking. "He's been hostile since I started enforcing the rules," she cried, tears streaming like she practiced in a mirror. "Ask anyone. He's been terrorizing this neighborhood." The officers turned to me, their eyes narrowing. I kept my voice steady. "Officers, my car's been parked for 15 minutes. I was unloading groceries when she approached. I never started the engine or moved the vehicle." One officer scribbled notes, looking skeptical. "We'll need witness statements," he said, scanning the crowd, who suddenly found their shoes fascinating. Then Mr. Thompson stepped forward, clearing his throat. "Officers, I saw everything," he said softly. "And I've got it on video." The air shifted. Deborah's moans hitched for a split second before she doubled down, wailing even louder. Mr. Thompson held out his phone. "I've been recording these incidents for weeks," he said. "It's been happening to a lot of us. The video's clear. His car was parked." She approached, they argued, and then she threw herself on the ground. The officers watched the footage, their faces hardening. They glanced at Deborah, who was suddenly very interested in a squirrel scampering by. "Ms. Marshall," one officer said, his tone icy, "care to explain this video?" Deborah scrambled to her feet with the agility of an Olympian, her broken leg forgotten. "That video doesn't show everything," she snapped, brushing dirt off her pants. "There was contact. Maybe not from that angle, but I felt something." The officer wasn't ha-VYing it. "Ma'am, the video shows you walking up, arguing, and throwing yourself down. The car never moved." Deborah's story unraveled faster than a cheap sweater. "I must have slipped," she stammered. "The pavement's uneven in HOA violation we need to fix. I lost my balance." The officer stepped away to speak into his radio while the other laid it out. "Filing a false police report is a crime, Ms. Marshall. So is making false accusations like this." Deborah's face drained of color. "This is absurd," she sputtered. "I'm the HOA president. I was just protecting our standards. He's been breaking rules for months." But the crowd was done with her. Phones were out, recording her meltdown. Then she tried a new tactic, I'm HOA-ing a medical episode, she gasped, clutching her chest. I have a condition causes confusion, lapses in judgment. I need my doctor. She took a step toward her house, but an officer blocked her. Stay here, ma'am. After a quick huddle, the officers made their move. Deborah Marshall, one said, pulling out handcuffs, you're under arrest for filing a false police report and attempted insurance fraud. I couldn't help it, I blurted. Insurance fraud? The officer nodded. Ms. Marshall has a history. 3 prior claims of injuries from neighbors' cars, all tied to insurance payouts. We've been building a case, and this video seals it. As they cuffed her, Deborah's bravado crumbled. This is a mistake, she cried as they read her rights. I'm a respected leader. Do you know what this will do to my catering business? The officer wasn't fazed. False reports carry up to a year in jail and do law $5,000 in fines. Attempted fraud? That's a felony up to 5 years. Deborah's voice shrank to a whisper. 5 years? But I'm the HOA president. The police car door slammed, cutting her off. As the cruiser pulled away, the neighbors stood in stunned silence, then broke into scattered cheers and relieved laughter. Sarah sidled up, grinning. That woman's been a nightmare for 3 years, she said. She once fined the Wilsons due, law 150, because their Halloween decorations were up a day past regulation. I shook my head, still processing the insanity. Mr. Thompson's video had saved me, exposing Deborah's lies and her pattern of fraud. As the crowd dispersed, I felt a weight lift off Willow Creek. For the first time in months, I thought maybe this neighborhood could actually be the peaceful home I'd hoped for just without Deborah Marshall's reign of terror.